Hello, my name is Hans George Campbell. Out here in the shop tonight, taking a look at this Amiga 2000 computer that I recently picked up in a huge Amiga Megaload. I showed that Megaload in my previous video. This is the Amiga 2000 from that Megaload, and I thought I'd take the cover off. There's some work I want to do in this computer. I'll close her back up and put her on one of the shelves. But this is a computer that I do plan on doing a complete refurb on. I'm going to recap it. I'm going to put in the new Kickstart ROM. I'm going to do a lot of work on this particular Amiga 2000, getting her up to today's standards for Amiga, you know. And yeah, she's going to be wind up being one of my workhorse Amiga 2000 computers. So I thought while I was working on this computer tonight that I would just turn on the camera and let you guys watch. I mean, some of you might like this video. So yeah, I thought I'd just do the work on this computer underneath the camera. Okay, I had removed the 5 bolts off camera, so now I'm ready to remove this top cover. It just slides off. Okay, slides off like that. And just... all right. As you can see, this Amiga 2000 is in pretty nice shape. Yeah, it's in pretty nice shape, considering how old it is. Okay. Yeah, it's got a Rev 6.2 motherboard. Let me get my pointer. It did have a Mega chip plugged into here. I don't like the Mega chips because there's a high risk, there's a high chance that the Mega chip, when you press it in here, it will eventually split this Agnes socket. And if that ever happens, these are a pain in the ass to replace. They really are. Pain in the ass to replace. So I don't recommend installing Mega chips. Not in this socket right here. Just don't do it. It's got a Rev 3.1 Kickstart ROM. That's good. It's got the high quality ceramic, not the cheap plastic one. I prefer these ceramic chips. These are really nice EEPROMs. I don't like this third-party 68000 microprocessor, so I will most likely be removing this processor and putting in, installing a genuine Motorola 68000 microprocessor. I'll do that while I recap the board. I plan on recapping this board, but I do plan on. I gotta wait because I'm getting the type of desoldering system that I used professionally in the electronics industry. I tried the various desoldering guns. They're all crap. Even the Heiko desoldering gun that my friend Sean brought over to let me try. I tried it out, and it's about the same performance as a China knockoff. About the same performance. I wasn't actually impressed, to be honest with you. I was not really impressed with that, with the Heiko desoldering gun. I think they're crap. Especially for the price that you have to pay for that Heiko name brand. I mean, they have the nerve to charge like $250 to $300 for one of those Heiko desoldering guns, and they're crap. They're crap. They really are. They're crap. I mean, you can get a really nice desoldering station, not a gun, a station, desoldering station, like the type that I used to use in the electronics industry for around $140. And when I get mine in, I'll show it to you. I'll do an unboxing, I'll do a review, and I will show you how nice, you know, a professional quality desoldering workstation, how well those work. They have a big base unit that actually has a compressor in the base unit that's set up in the opposite direction, so it sucks the air. It creates like a very strong suction, okay? And then you have the gun that has both the heating element and it has a separate hose coming from that air compressor. You know, so it really has a suck power to suck those little solder right out of the holes. And these desoldering workstations, they are really nice. And when I get that in, I'm going to show it to you guys. I'm going to show you what we used to use professionally, what I used to use professionally in the electronics industry. Don't get one of those desoldering guns, not even that overpriced Heiko crap. Just don't do it. They're crap. If it says desoldering gun, it's a piece of garbage. It's crap. Don't get it. Okay? You want to buy what is called a desoldering workstation. And do not waste your money on hot air. Hot air is garbage. Don't waste your money on it. Never use hot air. I mean, there's only certain situations where you use hot air. But most of the time, when we had to do rework in the electronics industry, this is at the professional level, not the hobbyist level, like what most of you are at. You're hobbyists. You're not professionals. I'm a professional, and I'm telling you how we did it professionally in the electronics industry. We almost never used hot air. Almost never when we worked on surface mount. We used soldering irons, with like Metcal soldering irons, and we had special tips that would actually desolder all the leads on surface mount chips at the exact same time, and it had a suction thing that we press the lever and it would suck the chip onto that soldering system, and it pulled the whole thing out beautifully. It actually desolder all the leads at the same time. We had special tips that we used for that. They were very expensive, but they worked really well. Okay, we would also use, it's a special type of solder that has an extremely low melting point. And what we would do is we would put that solder all around the leads. And then we would use a light hot air gun just to melt that solder, get that low temperature solder to heat up. And that would melt all the solder off the leads, and we just pull the chip right off. That's how we did it professionally, and it works really well. I'll show you these techniques in some future episodes if you guys want to see how we did it professionally. Okay? We use a desoldering workstation for removing like through-hole components and things like that. I will show you how to do that professionally because I'm going to be recapping all of my Amiga computer motherboards, and including the power supplies. And I'm going to do it the correct way because most of you do it the wrong way. And I'm sick and tired of seeing you guys do it the wrong way, and you're showing other people how to do it the way you're doing it, and you're doing it wrong. So I felt, well, since I'm a professional, I worked in the electronics industry as an assembler and an engineer's assistant for over 25 years. I'm the person that should show you how to do all this stuff. I'm the professional, not the hobbyist. I'll show you guys how to do all of this stuff professionally. Okay? So stay tuned for these exciting episodes coming up real soon. Got a lot of content coming, planned for next year for sure. For the upcoming the next 5 years, I got over 1,000 videos planned. Oh yeah, I got a lot of content coming. And this does not count the software videos or Magazine Mondays. Yes, I'll continue that series too. I've been going through a lot of my magazines tonight to try to figure out, okay, what's going to be the next magazine for Magazine Mondays? Okay, because a lot of you guys said you missed that. You really enjoyed those episodes. So I'm going to, for you guys, I'm going to do some more Magazine Mondays. Don't worry. That's all coming up. Okay. Now, final test by 30. I don't know if I still need that in there or not. I'll throw it in the garbage. Yeah, I don't need that sticker anymore. Okay. Now, because I have to plug in an Agnes chip into this socket, I have to first remove the board from the case. Yes, you heard me right. Never work on an Amiga 2000 motherboard, especially if you have to reseat the chips or press in new chips and stuff like that. Never do that with the motherboard still installed in the case on these metal standoffs. There is a high risk factor that you will damage. While doing that, the board will flex too much. You will either damage the micro traces on this board. They will break because you're flexing the board too much. Okay? Or you will do damage to the fiberglass because you got a round, hard metal piece that this fiberglass board sits on. And if you press too hard, okay, it can actually damage the underside of this fiberglass board. It causes those metal standoffs to dig deeper into the fiberglass. So whenever you have to work on these boards, I'm talking about reseating the chips, even changing out the Kickstart ROM. Take everything out of the case first. Take the motherboard out of the case. Don't be lazy. Don't be stupid. Take the motherboard out of the case and lay it on top of a firm, flat surface like a table, preferably with an anti-static mat. And I highly recommend that if you find yourself working on vintage computers or vintage electronics all the time, okay, that you get yourself a nice workbench or a nice solid table and invest in an anti-static mat. They're about $60 to $80 on eBay. That may seem like, a lot of money, but that anti-static mat, if you take care of it, will last you the rest of your life. Okay? Don't be cheap. Take care of your computers, your vintage computers, and they will take care of you. They will last the rest of your life if you take care of them. If you properly recap them and service them and work on them. Don't be lazy. Okay, don't do it. So, I've got to remove this motherboard from this case. Okay, so I got to remove this part. Well, I can leave that on, but anyway, take these out of here. They got to come out. These wires got to come out like that. And, okay. The next thing I want to do is I need to remove these. I'll wipe these down with WD-40 and then a clean, dry, 100% cotton rag afterwards. These right here. Because see how they're oxidized? Well, WD-40 will clean these babies right up. Make them look like brand new. And then you wipe them down with a cloth that you've sprayed the WD-40 on, just a little bit, doesn't take much. And then you take a clean cotton rag and you dry it off, okay? And that will make these look like brand new. In fact, I recommend doing the whole inside of the case like that with WD-40. Wipe it down with WD-40 on a rag, and after you do that, take a clean rag, okay? Wipe it down again. That conditions the case. Keeps the case from rusting or oxidizing. Okay? That's what you want to do. Yeah, these Rev 6.2 motherboards, they're actually hard to find. So if you're lucky enough to ever get an Amiga 2000 that's got a Rev 6.2 motherboard and the battery hasn't really leaked that bad or hasn't leaked, consider yourself extremely lucky, because most Amiga 2000 computers have Rev 4 4.x motherboards. They're usually around 4.3 to about 4.5. That's usually the revision numbers of most of the boards that are in the Amiga 2000 computers. So, yeah. Okay, the other thing I need to do is I need to remove this back part right here. Now, do not use American Standard bolts on an Amiga 2000. An Amiga 2000 was basically designed and made in Germany. So it uses all metric hardware. The small bolts are 3mm of various sizes, various lengths. The larger bolts are 4mm. Okay, do not use American Standard thread. It won't work. It's all metric. It's a German computer. Okay, then we pull that out, clean that up with a damp sponge or whatever, WD-40 on this side, damp sponge on that side, and dry it off really good, and that'll be perfect. Be like brand new. Okay, so let me put, let me put that away. Okay, now, when you remove these, okay, the bolts that are in the Amiga 2000 motherboard that screws it onto the case bottom, these are 3mm. They're 3mm, and yes, you can buy brand new 3mm and 4mm bolts at your local Ace Hardware. I don't know what they have in Europe, but here in the United States, you know, we have Ace Hardware stores, and they're about that long. The length of these, the thread is 3mm. Okay, the length looks like it's about, in American inches, it looks like it's about 3/8 of an inch long. I don't know what that would be in millimeters, but that's how long the bolts are. They could be a little bit longer. You know, the bolts are going into the standoffs on the case. I've used slightly longer ones. That's fine. It'll still work. Okay, so we got this one. Yeah, whenever you have to work on a Amiga 2000 motherboard, always first remove it from the case. Always. Don't be lazy. Don't be stupid. And I see so many of you working on your Amiga 2000 motherboards while it's inside the case. Don't do that. You will damage the motherboard by doing that. One of the things I'm planning on doing with this Rev 6.2 motherboard, besides recapping it, is notice how the solder has already been sucked out of these holes here. Unlike the Rev 4 motherboards where the solder's in there, right? Somebody at Commodore was smart enough to use solder mask over these holes here so that when it went through the flow solder, okay, that these holes would not get filled up with solder. So, you know, the person that did that was very smart by doing that. Okay, so now all I have to do is solder in the card edge connectors that go in here, and then I have two more 16-bit ISO slots for a bridge board, because I do like using a bridge board in my Amiga 2000 computers. I do plan on doing a lot of Bridgeport content in the near future. So stay tuned for those exciting videos. Okay, there's also a bolt that's right here. These are a little bit longer, but they're still 3mm. They're a little bit longer, usually. So, I keep these separate from the other ones because they are a little bit longer. I usually, when I take them out, I usually spray a little bit of WD-40 on them, the threads, clean them up a little bit so they go in a little bit easier, you know. So yeah, I usually clean those up. Okay, there's one back here too. I believe that's on the disk drive port. That one there. It could be, actually could be, I think the serial is, anyway, I think that might be the serial port there. But there's one here too. Okay. It too's about the same size, about 1/2 inch long or whatever. They appear to be the same size. Let me put them together. Yeah, they're the same size. So, yeah. They're the same size. All right. So let's take the motherboard out of the case, shall we? Lay it on top of a flat, hard surface like your table or an anti-static mat. I mean, a workbench with an anti-static mat like what I'm using. Okay, this is how you want to work on your Amiga 2000 motherboard. Do not work on it while it's still inside the case. I can't stress that enough. I see a lot of you doing that. Don't do it. Remove it from the case first. Anytime you got to work on the motherboard, as far as the chips, changing out the chips or reseating your chips, always pull the motherboard out of the case. Lay it on top of a flat surface, you know, like a table or a workbench, preferably with an anti-static mat on top like this. All right, I've got to get, okay, first thing I'm going to do, I'll go ahead and seat all the chips. Hear that creak? Yeah, I'm so happy it's got this high quality ceramic kickstart ROM. That's a really nice kickstart ROM. Okay. I don't know what that is. Okay, so now let me get myself an Agnes chip. Well, I can do that off camera, so I'll be back shortly. All right, I found a 1 megabyte Agnes chip to put into this Rep 6.2 Amiga 500 motherboard, and this is the chip here, an 8372A. Okay, and the way you can tell where pin 1 is, it's got a beveled edge right here, and there's a dot right in the center, right there. That denotes pin 1 on the Agnes chip. And then right here, silk screened on the motherboard, it says 1, that's pin 1. So, you take the 1 meg Agnes chip, okay, and you put it in there just like that. Okay, now there is also a 2 megabyte version of this chip. It has the same number, but instead of it having the A, it says B. Like this here is an 8372A. That's the 1 meg Agnes chip. Okay, that's for the Amiga 500 and the 2000. Okay, there's also an 8372B. That's the 2 megabyte Agnes chip for the Amiga 3000 computer. But that chip is pin for pin compatible with this chip here. So you can replace this chip with the 8372B 2 meg Agnes. It'll drop right in the same socket. And I will show you guys how to do the 2 megabyte chip memory upgrade on a Rev 6 Amiga 500 motherboard later on this year. So stay tuned for that exciting episode. And then next year, I plan on showing you how to do the 2 megabyte chip RAM upgrade on a Rev 6 Amiga 2000 motherboard like this one here. I'll actually show you how to do that 2 meg chip RAM upgrade. It's better to do that than to plug in a mega chip and take a chance on damaging or cracking or splitting open that Agnes socket. That's a very expensive repair. And I usually won't do it for less than $100. Oh yeah, I want at least a $100 bill to replace that socket. It's a real pain in the ass. It really is. And those of you that who have had to replace Agnes socket, you know what I'm talking about. It's a real pain in the ass. Okay, so now that the Agnes chip is seated on top, like that, right? We want to press straight down in the center. Just like that. It should pop right in. Do not press one side than the other. Don't do that. I've seen so many of you do that. No. Press in the center of the chip and press down. It should pop right in. If it don't pop right in, you didn't do it right. And the reason why you want to do that is to make sure that these leads, they go in the way they're supposed to without bending or crossing over. That's why you want to press it right in the center and push down right from the center of that chip and pop. Should pop right in just like you heard it and saw it do there. Should pop right in. Okay, so that has a 1 meg Agnes chip. Yeah. And I got all the main chips seated. Now when I get that soldering desoldering station, I do plan on, like I said, recapping all of my Amiga computer motherboards, starting with the Amiga 2000 motherboards, including recapping the power supplies. Then I'm going to recap all 10 of my Amiga 500 computers. Yes, I have 10 Amiga 500s. The Amiga 500 is my second favorite Amiga. Then I'm planning on recapping both of my Amiga 1000 computers. I've already recapped my Amiga 1200, but I got more Amiga 1200s to recap, so I'll probably show you guys that on the camera too. But yeah, okay. So we got the new Agnes chip plugged in. Alright. So now we got to put the board back into the case. And I'm going to use brand spanking new 3mm screws to do that. Actually, these screws aren't too bad. I could just go ahead and reuse these. Yeah, because these aren't bad. Usually, they're a lot more oxidized and corroded. They don't look as nice as these. So I'll probably just go ahead and reuse these because there's nothing wrong with these. You know, nothing wrong with those. And then these here, just spray a little bit of WD-40 on them and wipe them with a clean cloth, and then, you know, before putting those back in. So, yeah. All right. As many of you know, not only was I trained in electronics assembly, I was also trained in mechanical assembly. And so I'm going to show you the correct way, and yes, there is a correct way of installing an Amiga 2000 motherboard into the case. Okay? The first set of screws that you want to install in this board, when you're mounting this board into the case, you want to put these center screws in first, but only after you first put these screws in. Because these screws here, they seat the board where it needs to be. After you get those two bolts in, then you put these center ones in. Okay, so let's do that. So we're going to put this one in first. And if it doesn't go in, you need to shift the board a little bit. Now don't tighten this one until after you get this one in. This one needs to go in too. Then you tighten both and you just snug them. Do not over tighten it. It will cause the motherboard to flex and possibly break. You just want to basically keep tightening them until the bolt gets to, until it bottoms out on the top of that metal L-shaped connector right there, or that little bracket. When you see it on top of that, stop turning. Don't turn anymore, it's tight enough. When you feel like slight resistance, stop. Don't turn anymore. And that's it. Once those two bolts are in, then you want to mount the center one first. The reason why, do not tighten until you get all the bolts in. The reason why you do it this way, and this is what I was told when I was trained years ago, all those years ago. By starting in the center and you're working your way out toward the outer edge of a large board like this, it evens the pressure. It spreads the pressure of that board when you're mounting it. That's the reason for doing it in this particular order. And this includes even PC motherboards. You always start with the screws in the center, or in this case, like on a PC motherboard, the screws that are here, and work your way out. That's how you do it. Do not tighten them all. Do not tighten any of them until you get them all in. You might have to reshift the motherboard. You might even have to loosen these up a little bit, to make that happen. The next one, remember, this always works center out. That's the center one for up top there, right? And when you get ready to tighten the center ones first, then the outer ones. You make that pressure flow outward. Okay. Do not tighten any of the bolts till you get them all in. Okay, once they're all in, you start, you just shift it, reseat that board. You start with the center one first. Snug it, do not over tighten. Snug only. Do not over tighten. You can damage the fiberglass motherboard by over tightening. And you want to use a low torque number 2 screwdriver like this one. This is what I'm using. I highly recommend you get a set of these screwdrivers. Okay, now, remember the center ones are always first. That goes for the top and bottom too. Center one first, then the outer ones. Okay? I'm just make sure it's tight. Yeah, okay. Same thing with down here. Center one first. In fact, there's 2 center ones on this one. The next one would be down here. Just like that. And that's it. That board's in. Okay. And then we plug in the power cable. Okay, one of these is for, the long one's for the hard drive. And the shorter one is the actual power lead. Just, actually that'd be fine. Just plug it in like that. Yeah. And then just, we don't want it cutting against that metal part of that. So, yeah, that should be fine. Yeah. Should be fine. Now to keep this from, okay, like that. Yeah, that's good. And then this will go into the hard drive controller. We'll just have it sitting there for now, but yeah. Okay. So I got the Agnes chip in, got the motherboard put back in. Yeah. So all right. I went ahead and put the put these back on off camera. I didn't want to bore you guys, you know, so I put those on off camera. So the next thing to do is to put back on the power supply cradle, and that's weird. This one only has, it only has the two mounting holes on the front here. The better ones have a third mounting hole here. That's interesting. I don't know if I want to use that one. Yeah, because I have another one, the better quality one, that has the third mounting hole right here. I mean, the third mounting thing right there. But for the time being, I'll just use this one. I'll just use that one. Now, the type of bolts that I use, now Commodore, they use like just a fancy single bolt and just installed it. I don't do that. I use a 4mm bolt like that. Okay. And then I use a lock washer like that. And the reason why I do that is so that I only tighten until that lock washer closes. Then I stop. The lock washer will keep the bolt from loosening up, and it'll keep me from over tightening, because these are fine threads. And you can easily strip these, even in metal. Okay? But the lock washer has to have something to bite into, and I don't want it to bite into the case. So I usually use a washer like that. Now on a washer, there's a smooth side, okay, and there's a rough side. The smooth side you want facing the plastic or the metal. The rough side you want facing the head of the bolt. Okay, and you learn that when you go to school for assembly, you know, mechanical assembly. Not only do you learn about the tools that you use in mechanical assembly, but you also, you know, learn about the different forms of mounting hardware and the correct way of using them. Okay? So, now for this application, I'm going to use a full-size number 2 Phillips. And I'm going to make sure the hole's lined up here, because that will center it. Okay. Okay, so that's in. And make sure it's still recording. I'm going to go ahead and pull all of these out because I'm going to be using them quite a bit. So I got them like that. I got them all lined up. I got the 3mm too. So I'll just show them to you. There they are. Let's pull them out. I'm going to need a bolt. I need a lock washer. I need a regular washer. Oh, shit. The smooth side goes toward the metal. The rough side goes toward the head of the bolt. Because you don't want to scratch up the metal case of the Amiga 2000 or whatever else you're working on. You don't want to scratch that up. Okay, so that's in there. Alright. Then we'll turn this computer around and we'll do the other side. Yeah. Do that other side, boys and ghouls. Boys and ghouls. Do that other side. Same thing. 4mm bolt. 4mm lock washer. And a 4mm washer. The smooth side goes toward the case. And the rough side goes toward the head of the bolt. Okay. Alright. And put that baby... what the hell? Oh shit, did it go underneath? It actually went underneath. Damn it. Okay, I'll be right back shortly. Alright. Let's continue on, shall we? Okay. Yeah, there's 4 bolts in the back, either 2 or 3 in the front, depending on the type of power supply chassis what type of power supply chassis you have. All right. Yeah, you can get these 4mm and 3mm hardware from your local hardware store. Here in the United States, that'd be Ace Hardware. So, yeah. Now, there's 2 versions of the Amiga 2000 power supply. The original version is the one that has all the holes in this top cover. That's in the very early issue of Amiga 2000 computers. And the later ones, especially with the Rust 6.2 motherboards, they have this power supply here where it's closed on top. I think this is a much higher quality power supply. I think this is a much better power supply than the early one. I mean, don't get me wrong, the early one was good too, but between the 2 of them, I like this one better. And as someone that specializes in the Amiga 2000, I mean, this is my favorite computer of all time, so yeah. This power supply I prefer. I like that one better. Very nice power supply. Very nice power supply. I really like that one. It's very nice. Just snug it. As soon as that lock washer closes, stop. You do not want to over tighten this. Okay? You don't want to over tighten it. Now I'll put my bolts back and lock washers and washers. Put all this stuff back. Yeah, I usually buy these in bulk of 100, in lots of 100 each, you know. That's why I got them in stock, because I'm always working on B2000s and 3000 computers, so, and they all, and even 4000, they use 3mm bolts too. So, yeah. Alright, so the next thing I need to do, I'm not worried about hooking up the disk drive right now. I just want to get this computer put back together so I can slide it up on the shelf, you know, complete with its cover. So I will go ahead and hook it up though. The power supply or whatever. I will hook this up. Just in case I plug it in, you know, it will have the that plugged in. And these here, well, I usually don't like having this one just floating around inside there. I could go ahead because I might add a second disk drive. So let me see. I might add a second disk drive. So the second drive will go like that. I usually like having 2 disk drives on my Amiga 2000s. So you know what? Just to keep that cable from flopping around, I'll go ahead and plug that in like that. And this one here, just have it, this wire tie. Actually, I don't want that like that, that's for sure. Just basically, let me get a wire tie. I don't want that. That's too fucking long. Just get a wire tie, like, I don't know. That, just like that, and it should be okay. Yeah, anyway, I don't want that. Like that's fine. It doesn't have to be crazy, you know. I just don't want it taking the chance on it touching, you know, anything in there. So yeah, just like that's fine. That's fine. I just don't want this flopping around, maybe touching the board or whatever when I plug it in to test or whatever. But I know this Amiga 2000 works fine. I know it works fine. So yeah, it works fine. I love it when they work. So whoever removed the battery, they did that, you know, before it really started leaking bad. I'm real happy about that. Because these Amiga 2000 with the Rev 6.2 motherboards are getting very hard to find. Alright. Now we'll slide this cover on, and then I can put this computer on one of the shelves. And it will be ready for... I'm going to do a complete recap on this Amiga 2000, and I'm going to do a complete refurb. And when I do that, I'm going to do all of that on camera. So stay tuned for that. And, okay, so what we want to do, and again, same thing, same type of screws that went into the power supply. There's 5 of them that screw the case top on, 4mm bolt, a lock washer, and a regular washer. Remember, the smooth side goes toward the case so you don't scratch up the case. Smooth side of the washer goes toward the case. Okay. There is a correct way of doing this also. Okay. Alright. You want to put your bolts in, right, into the side. Do not tighten them yet. Put them inside. Alright. The side bolts. But do not tighten. Not yet. You want them loose. Okay, do the same thing on the other side. Alright. You want them loose. Put them in there, but keep them loose. You'll see why in a second. Alright. You have the side bolts on, you got the rear bolt on, turn the Amiga 2000 around like that, okay? Just like that, okay? Now, while putting pressure on the top, the middle part of the case up top here. Not too much pressure, just enough to hold it down. You want to tighten up that bolt in the rear. That's the first one you tighten. Just snug it, do not over tighten. Just snug it. And what that does, it pulls the case back to where it needs to be. It pulls it back. Okay? Then you tighten up your side bolts. Okay, and again, a little bit of pressure in the center, not too much, just enough. This way, when you put your monitor, a heavy CRT monitor on top of the Amiga 2000, okay, the underside of this top cover here will be resting on top, you know, of right here, on top of this metal part that comes up, and the metal part in the back here, okay? So it doesn't bend the center of your case. I've seen a lot of the centers of the cases bent because the top cover was not installed properly. Okay. Alright, just snug it. Tighten it until that lock washer closes and then stop. The lock washer will keep the bolt from loosening up. And that's it. So another Amiga 2000 is ready to put on the shelf. Ready to go. Yeah. The disk drive that was originally in this Amiga 2000 computer, I took it out because I like having just standard 880K disk drives. But the original drive that was in here was a high density Amiga drive, an FZ357A drive. These are normally found in the Amiga 4000 computer. So I'm going to clean this one up and I'm going to refurbish it and save it for an Amiga 4000 computer because I get those in from time to time. So I'll hang on to this high density drive. Or another thing I could do is take the faceplate off, right? I need the eject button, but take the faceplate off because this will also fit real nice inside of my Amiga 1200 computer. And then I would be able to read and write the normal Amiga 880K discs, as well as Amiga high density discs, which are what, 1.76 megabyte discs. I'll also be able to read 720K PC discs and Atari ST discs, as well as 1.44 megabyte high density PC discs. Okay. So yeah, I think this would be a smart thing to add or to install inside my Amiga 1200 computer. But I'm going to wait until after I get the black keycaps, and then I'll do all of that at the same time. And that'll be in part 3 of working on my Amiga 1200. So stay tuned for that video. It'll be coming up later on this year. I'd say within the next month or two it'll come up. And I'll add this drive, this high density drive. But I want to first open it all up and clean it really good, lube it, stuff like that. And you guys, of course, get to watch me do that underneath the camera. It appears to be in pretty good shape, you know, because this here is usually oxidized, that flywheel, because stupid dumbass is touching it with their bare fingers or whatever. And the case is usually oxidized up here, but this one appears to be in really nice shape. One of the things you want to check on these drives right here is the surface mount capacitors. Make sure they haven't leaked and that they're okay. In fact, I'm probably just going to go ahead and replace the surface mount caps in this drive. I think there's like 2 or 3 of them. And I'll replace them just to be on the safe side. Yeah. Well, that's it. That's it for this video. I just thought while I was working on my Amiga 2000 computer, you know, that I got in this pickup, I'd turn on the camera and let you guys watch. Because I had it all taken apart, you know, and I want to put it back together. I don't like having my computers just parts all over the shop. You know, I want to put it back together, put it on one of my shelves, and then when I get ready, when I have the time to work on it and the parts to work on it, right, I'll go ahead and refurbish it, recap it, and it'll be ready for use. So anyway, that's it for this video. Stay tuned for more exciting content here on the Hans Campbell Show. Lots of exciting videos coming up real soon. Anyway, that's it. My name is Hans George Campbell, and until next time.